Hey everyone, thanks for joining me again. So it is probably by the time you listen to this, I am out on vacation. So I am trying to keep all my batches of recordings kind of flowing so that I stay ahead of my game so that I don't miss an episode. So I think this is one that's going to come out while I'm out of the office. But today I'm going to talk about something that is. Uh, it's a good conversation to hear, good thing to be reminded of, but it's also going to be one that potentially annoys some people because if you are the kind of person that does this thing, then you are likely very attached to this habit. And so me challenging you on it today might not feel so great, but you're going to be okay. So we're talking about procrastination and why it is not fantastic. Now, there are certain aspects of it that are okay. Um, Most aspects are not, but I'm going to talk to you about it, and I want you to kind of see what you think after I walk you through my thoughts. So, procrastination, what is that? That's basically when you put things off instead of doing them in a timely manner, right? So, doing things later than you probably should because you are avoiding it for some reason or you're just not making the time for it. You don't feel like doing it. You think you have more time, so you just kind of wait to do it later. And procrastination is such a common thing. So many people are procrastinators, and you've got some people who are mild procrastinators. They only procrastinate some of the time, depending on the situation. And then you've got people who are chronic procrastinators, and that's kind of how they function, and they run their entire life at the last minute. Everything they do is very kind of down to the wire and very last minute. So you may fit in one of those categories. You probably somewhere in between, or you may not be a procrastinator at all. But I think we all at some point put something off, something that we probably should have done sooner. And so we all at some point have procrastinated, have put something off, and then had to deal with some kind of consequence as a result, whether being stressed out at the last minute or not getting something done because you ran out of time or something else came up. So at some point you have experienced procrastination. So, it applies to all of us, but this especially applies to people who do this frequently. So, the reason that I'm bringing this up is that it's such a source of topic of conversation that I have with people because it's not the presenting problem. People don't come in and say, I have a problem with procrastination. It's usually an issue where someone is struggling with stress of some sort. Sometimes it's anxiety, but a lot of the times it's just, straight up stress. And through conversation about what's causing stress and all the different things going on in someone's lives, a lot of the times we get to that point of the conversation where the issue actually is procrastinating, putting things off, and then creating this habit of constantly living under a state of stress. And I think of procrastination as self-inflicted stress, right? When you are choosing to put something off and choosing not to do it in a timely manner, then you are choosing to create stress for yourself. And you're choosing to put yourself in a situation where you're going to be really crunched for time, and being crunched for time automatically creates stress. Time is a thing that everyone can experience stress around. If you run out of time, or you're running late, or you don't get somewhere on time, or, whatever, anything relating to time has the potential to turn into a stressor. So if you are doing something that puts you firmly and intentionally into a situation where you could run out of time, then you are doing that to yourself. You are creating that time stress for yourself. And that's something that you just would have to face and be aware of and decide to do something about. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. But it's interesting because when people typically are feeling super stressed about just their normal routine, a lot of the times procrastination is a part of the equation. It may not be the entire equation, but it's usually a portion of it. And time management is really easy for some people, but it's hard for most people. Most people have a difficult time organizing themselves, creating a schedule, following a schedule, and doing things in a way that is structured or organized. So when you are not managing your time well, then you might fall into kind of a situation where you're stressed all the time. And when you put things off, you're procrastinating, that's a part of the equation. So, the reason that I said earlier that if you're a procrastinator, you won't like this conversation is because, in my experience, and I could be wrong, this may not apply to you, but if you are a procrastinator, my guess, based on experiences I've had with people I've talked to, my guess is that you are very attached to your procrastinating habits. It's something that you have done for a really long time, and you've probably had lots of people along the way in your life trying to tell you or lecture you or teach you a better way to do this, where they lecture you about how awful of a habit procrastinating is and it's so bad for you and you're never going to get anything done and all that stuff, right? So I'm sure if you're a procrastinator, people have talked to you about this bad habit and that you should change it. So I'm guessing you're very attached to it. You don't want to change it. You don't like it when people talk to you about it. So I'm sorry if I'm annoying you, but I'm hoping you're still here and listening. And that means that you want to kind of see where I'm going with this. So thank you for that. But I don't want to sit here and lecture you about managing your time better. That's something that, I'm sure other people have done. I'm happy to have that chat with you on the side, but you probably know all the things that you could be doing differently. If you don't know that, you probably need to get someone to help you with that. I don't want to lecture you about your time management. I do want you to think about self-inflicted stress. That's the extent of this conversation, right? I talk to you about being in the driver's seat of your life, right? About making choices that better your life. That if there's something that you value or something that brings you happiness or joy, you need to be responsible for including that in your day, in your life, some way, somehow. That is your responsibility. That is something that lets you run your life instead of feeling like your life is being run by circumstances or time or work or people or whatever. So, being in a situation where you experience stress as a result of putting things off, that is a direct choice. That is something that you have full control over. And by doing that, by improving that, you get to actually positively influence your stress levels in your life. And you probably know more than anyone if you legitimately are out of time or don't have time to do something, or if you're putting something off or choosing not to prioritize it. That's up to you to really be honest with yourself. I've already had the conversation with you weeks ago, early on, I think episode, I don't know, one of the first five, about the idea of not having time, right? That the better way to look at it is choosing not to make time instead of I don't have time. We all can make time for stuff, but we don't always choose to prioritize. So this is one of those things. If you are the kind of person that is in this habit of procrastinating because you have yourself convinced that you don't have time to do stuff, I'm here to challenge you and tell you that if you are doing that to yourself and you're always feeling stressed, I really, really want you to call yourself out. I'm kind of calling you out. You are not stressed needlessly. The stress is not just chasing you in life with a personal vendetta against you. You are creating the stress by not managing your time. So I want you to really, really be honest about how much of the stress that's in your life right now is self-inflicted, is caused by not choosing to be organized, not choosing to do things on time. I could go into so many different strategies about like how to use a calendar, how to use a planner, how to use reminders and, alarms on your phone to help you manage your time. But it doesn't matter because if you don't get to a point where you accept that being a procrastinator is self-inflicted stress, then none of the strategies are going to matter and none of them are going to work for you. Your perspective of your procrastination is the first thing that has to change. You have to be willing to face the reality that you are creating this stress in your life, and only then will you be motivated enough to apply any new strategy or implement a change in your routine. And once you get to that point, then you will have so much of a much more successful time creating that change. And so now you kind of have to ask yourself, why are you attached to your procrastination? What is that about? Is there, for some people, it's I don't know, it can be different, but it can be a kind of a fear of giving 100% upfront, because what if you don't do, what if the result isn't great? And then it's like, well, I tried my hardest. I didn't get, let's say with homework, I didn't get a good grade. So what's the point? What's the point of putting in all this effort? I'll just do it at the end. I'll throw it together. And that way, if I don't do well and if I get a bad grade, then I can say, well, I cranked that paper out in, 2 hours when I should have been working on it for 2 weeks. So there's a safety there of being able to blame that last minute task or the last minute budgeting of time to the low quality of that work. And a lot of people do that because they are truly afraid of being a disappointment or failing somehow. For some people, it's just straight up not knowing how to manage. They avoid things that they don't want to do because they don't enjoy doing them. So they just put them off, put them off, put them off. Then eventually you get to a point where you can't put it off anymore. And then you force yourself to do it in the end. Or for some people, it just does not get done because you've now generated so much anxiety thinking about it and, dealing with the feelings of it looming over your head, that you just are now too overwhelmed to do it. You don't get it done, and then you do experience that failure or that disappointment that you were trying to avoid all along. And I think it's important to remember that while you are procrastinating, you are most likely stressed out. Even then, it's not just the stress that comes in the last minute when you're trying to do this thing. It's the constantly having it pop up in your head where you're like, oh, I have this thing I need to do and I'm not doing it. I don't want to do it, but I know it's there. And that in and of itself can create so much stress, so much anxiety, because you can't be free. You can't enjoy your time when you have this thing looming above you. So it's important to remember that it's stressful all the way through. And if you are a procrastinator and this does not apply to you, please call me and explain to me how you do that. Because I'm yet to meet anyone who's a true procrastinator who does not experience high levels of stress related to their procrastinating. People who aren't up all hours of the night before something is due, trying to finish it to where they're exhausted the next day. They're complaining they didn't get enough sleep. They have to take naps, therefore they have to miss out on something because they stayed up all night working on the other thing. Like, I don't know anyone who functions in a healthy way, has a good sleep habit, good eating habits, or anything, who is also a serious procrastinator. I'm yet to meet that person. And if you're in this mindset where you justify it and you say, well, it's not bad for me, I figured out how to do it. Okay, then take a step back and look at your life overall. Are you a healthy person? Do you have a healthy sleep ritual, or sleep hygiene, as we call it? Do you eat well? Do you, go to all your responsibilities and participate in everything that you're supposed to do? Or do you find yourself missing out on something because you didn't prioritize this thing well and you didn't manage that time well? So again, I'm calling you out. I don't think that you can be stress free and be a procrastinator. So many things in life are stressful. I'm not saying this is the only stressful thing in life. So many of your responsibilities are stressful for you. But my question is, why do something that intentionally adds stress to your life? What's the point? What's the benefit? And if you are super attached to your procrastinating habits, why is that? Like, what is it that you get out of it? How does it help you in some way? And if you are just so busy that you don't have time to do things, then I want you to go back and listen to my episode on making time, because there's always a way to change these habits. Now, there may be days where it's just impossible. You're just that slammed with things to do and it's just not going to get done in a pretty way. But I'm talking about habits. I'm talking about if you're the kind of person that the way you operate is constantly under a state of last minute, doing things last minute, that's what I want you to look at. What's going on that you are never able to do things on time or never able to get things done in a time that is more peaceful and relaxing? Why are you always so stressed out? Why are you always late? Why are you always out of time? Just look at it. I don't know what the answer is for you. I'm not judging that of you. I'm late a lot of the time. Actually, I'm on time. I'm not very often early. I'm on time. And for me, it's usually because I'm soaking up every last minute I can with my kid, or not wanting to leave the house too early because my dog's got to be here all day. So those are the reasons. But it's not a habit that's interfering with anything. It doesn't bring me stress. And if I know I have something that I have to, a commitment where being right on time is not good enough, I'm going to plan ahead. I'm going to leave in a time where I can be there at the expected or more healthy or less stressful way, because I don't want to have unnecessary stress. I am responsible for that in myself. I am responsible for teaching that in my child. I don't want to constantly be running around stressed out, anxious, and overwhelmed, because then I'm going to pass that down to my child. I'm going to create an environment where that seems normal, and it's not. It's not healthy. And I've had to work on that, because I did used to be, I didn't used to plan leaving the house on time to get him to school, where we'd get there on time, but it was a hustle in that last moment where I'm rushing and I'm rushing him. And that was so unfair to him. Why should I, by my mismanagement of time, I'm causing him to feel my stress and for him to be kind of snapped at by me? That's not fair. That's not on him. So I started changing that. I started, setting a timer or an alarm that told me when we needed to get up and start getting ready, because we were falling behind. And, now it's good because I prioritize that. So you are responsible for prioritizing the things that need to be changed to reduce your stress. So, all of this to say, don't be stubborn. If you're doing something and it's not working for you, but it's causing stress, please look at that. Please change it. It's not easy to change. It's not easy to create new habits, but it is important, and it's necessary for you to have a healthier, more functional life, and for you to set a better example for your children, or for you to be a more pleasant person to be around. Because trust me, no one wants to be around someone who's always stressed out, always down to the wire, and always out of time, and always complaining about how you didn't have time and how you were up all night doing the thing. Like, no one wants to be around that. No one enjoys being around that or interacting with that. So please be mindful of how your choices affect you, and your choices affect the people in your life. You being stressed out, you can sit here and explain to me why the system works and that you can get it all done, and you don't know why we should all be bothering you about it. Well, because at the end of the day, you have people in your life that you interact with, and all of those people are affected by your mood. Obviously, I want you to be a happier person, but I also want you to have good relationships with the people around you. And I know people who come to me to talk about how frustrating it is to be in a relationship with someone who is so bad at managing their time, who's always stressed out, because then that person is feeling sorry for themselves on a regular basis for not having time or not getting enough sleep or whatever. And then the person that comes and whines to me about it or talks to me about it is annoyed. And they're like, well, I don't feel sorry for them. They did this to themselves. But they won't tell that person because that would be rude. So instead, they get to vent it to me and we figure it out. But yeah, so don't be the person that is really hard to be around because you're so stressed out all the time because you don't manage your time right. So I'm going to wrap up here. Please think about it. Don't create needless stress for yourself. Do some things to create better habits and healthier ways of functioning. All right, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.